Okay.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, please. I just lost a 3-hour class. It is recording.
Because I did it already, but you have to do it too.
Anyway, in my screen it says recording, so we're good. Let me just get rid of this phone because I get all these 800 numbers.
E.T., you might have to explain again that Edwin G needs to hit record on his end if he wants a copy, or you can send him a copy.
It is. I did hit record.
You did? Are you sure?
It says recording on mine.
No, it says recording, but I didn't know if that meant that E.T. was recording.
The only option I have is to stop it, so I'm not going to do that. Good evening, friends. So, you know, I didn't get that many emails in terms of what you wanted to do, but I did get some. I'm going to read the whole thing. I mean, what else are we going to do with our minds, my friends? If there is a God, let's just put a series of ifs in place. Maybe we'll think of what was his name? Pascal's wager. If there is a God, and if Sri Krishna is God or a manifestation of that God, and if the goal of life is to seek God and love God, then what the hell else are we going to do other than follow? How are we going to, if all of that is true, then what? We're going to depend on our minds to figure out how to do that? Our klishta minds that have done nothing but get us into trouble and embarrass us birth after birth. So we have a text that is coming down from an amazing bhakta that's outlined a path, and we're gonna what? We're gonna fast forward. We're gonna pick and choose. Our minds are going to pick and choose what we want from it. That's probably not the best way to engage in svadhyaya. So we'll read the whole thing. Now, there are some verses that, having said all of that, you know, there are some verses like worshipping holy trees. We don't need to linger on those. And remember, now we're at the point where there's 64 processes. We listed them. Now he's going to substantiate them with scriptural support. We don't necessarily have to read, if there's 3 or 4, you know, verses invoked to support a particular point that's not of great interest, that's not relevant to our bhakti, right? We're not going to worship the banyan tree. Most probably. I haven't seen many growing near the Jersey Turnpike. I don't know about where you live. But so those sorts of things, I think we can definitely skim through. But otherwise, we'll do the whole thing. And I'll, you know, we'll add some sessions. And I'll clearly indicate when we get to, we'll have one session on bhava, and it will be in the title, and one on prema. They're very short chapters. We might not even need 2 hours for those. But you know, I want to deepen my bhakti. I don't know about you, and so I want to read what Rupa has to say. And he is a far, I mean, inconceivably more advanced bhakta than I will ever be, or certainly in any foreseeable lives. So if he's chosen to lay things out in a certain way, then I'm going to follow him. And the only editing I might do is things that might have been relevant for his cultural moment, like worshipping banyan trees. Then perhaps we can fast forward over those. Okay, so that's it, my friends. And you decide whether you want to what you want to do. I know many of you are intensely sincere, and I hope you'll stay with me. Others, it's up to you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Akanda Mandalakaram Yena vyaptam characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I invite you all to have darshan of my Guruji. Go onto the Svadhyaya link on my website. The charity link. And at the bottom of that, it has a little link for Edwin's Guru. Just click on that and have, and you'll at least won't understand what he's saying because he doesn't speak English, but that's what a Vrindavan Baba looks like. Well, of course, we're not interested in what they look like, but you know what I mean. Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityanandasya Dvaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauḍīya Vaishnava. Hey Krishna, Karunasindhu, Dinabandhu, Jagatpate, Gopesha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange, Radhe, Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hare. Apavitra pavitra va, sarvavastha gato piva. Yas maret pundarikaksham, sa bhayabhyantara shuchi. And you can plug in whatever your Ishtadevata is. It is the Lord with the lotus eyes. They all have lotus eyes because they all have beautiful eyes. My Ishtadevata is Krishna Balaram. Behind me, see them? I'll put the lights on later. So we are on chapter. Hang on, I'm going to plug this in. If it conks out, then it just means that that the plug got disconnected, and I got right straight in. Let's just no messing about. So so we got up to the 64 practices, right? They can be performed separately or collectively. And meaning any one of them, or you can do several at the same time. Okay, so that's it. Now we know that you can't just make up lists. You can't just come up with lists of things and say, well, this is it, this, and that is that, and this is what you should do. You have to substantiate everything, at least with texts that are pan-Indian. So now he says illustrations of these will now be cited from the words of the sages. Rūpa is saying, not just me. We're going to give you, and especially the Bhagavata Purana. That's his canonical text. And I'm so happy to be introducing you to the Bhagavata Purana. I do hope you explore it, my friends. Dive into especially the 10th book, the story of Krishna, especially the first 30 odd chapters. We're not interested in the Krishna after that. We're not interested in Dwarka. At least the Braj Bhaktas are not interested in Krishna when he goes around in Mahabharata Krishna and all that. That's not our beloved Ishtadevata. So here's the 11th canto. So the first one, remember, is the Guru, right? So now he's going to go through the 64. Number one, surrender at the feet of the Guru, right? So he's going to call it the 11th canto, right? BHP, Bhagavad Purana, 11.3.21. Therefore, here's the verse. So this is great because by doing this, we're actually reading the Bhagavatam together. And that's my mission in the world, is to read Bhagavatam and introduce the Bhagavatam to the Western world. That's our Braj kind of tradition. Those of us that are interested in being teachers and sharing with others. Therefore, where are we? So, therefore, one desirous of knowing the highest bliss, right? Because lots of different blisses. Remember, there's the bliss of the Atman. But there's that bliss, Satchidananda, that Atman bliss, the highest bliss, Bhagavan bliss, should take refuge with the Guru, who is experienced in scriptures, got to be able to unpack, reveal the scriptures, and in the supreme Brahman, not just Brahman. Brahman is Atman, supreme, the source, the support of Brahman, that's Bhagavan. And who is an abode of tranquility. Well, that's just your regular yogic kind of qualification, but yeah, got to be a yogi as well. Got to be an abode of tranquility. So that's the 11th, that's the Bhagavatam. Another one, an illustration of, and he's jumped straight to the second. I would have thought he had given several verses, but he's given one. Okay, second process of bhakti. Initiation and instruction regarding Krishna is in the same canto, right? 11.3, so it's the verse right after this, 11.3.21. So the second process of devotion, 11.3.22. One should learn the ways of the Lord from a guru, whom one regards as divine as one's own self, but not in an Advaitin sort of way. It's always a distinct entity, divine meaning completely and utterly surrendered to Bhagavan, but still an Atman, an individual Atman. It is, the guru isn't God. As divine and as one's own self. In other words, just as you love your own self, you love the guru with the same love. Who gives his self to the self. Hari, who gives his self to the self. God gives himself to the Atman that's pure and seeks him and wants him intensely. Then Hari gives himself to that self. Is pleased with these ways, accompanied with sincere service, as service to the guru. Okay, what's the relationship with the guru? Krishna says in Gita, Tadviti pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya. You ask questions and then and the guru answers the questions, and in exchange then, well, not in exchange, it's not a barter, but in return you serve the guru in some form or fashion. You render some service. Of course, real gurus don't want anything, so that's not so easy to do. But real gurus renounce the world, so how are you going to serve them? But you find some ways to do some little service if you can. And you all know that my own teacher has a Goshala, so that's my service, right? I do whenever I can, I go to India and I work in the Goshala, just menial work. It's so ecstatic, no ego involved. Because you've heard me say this before. I'll say it again. When you're cleaning cow poop, wearing your funky old gumsha, covered in muck, you don't get any social respect for that. Even Hindus that know, pious Hindus, they know they're supposed to worship the God. When they see you cleaning out, they walk past you rather quickly. You get no respect. There's no ego. So that's pure service, my friends. Why would you do that? You're not doing it for social respect. You're doing it purely out of love for your guru and for Bhagavan and the cows. After a while, you develop an intense affection for the cows. But why do you even begin to develop that relationship? Because Krishna loves the cows. And then the guru does it because for that reason. And then you serve the guru. And next thing you know, you love the cows yourself. So service to the guru. Okay. Right. Now the third, serving the guru with confidence. Same canto, 11th, but not the same, but not in sequence. Krishna says to Uddhava, there's a second Gita called the Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, sometimes called the second Bhagavad Gita. The guru should be thought of as me, not in the sense that the guru is God, but because the guru carries God in the mind all the time. In that sense, when we interact with that sort of a guru, then we're interacting with Bhagavan, because the guru's mind is nothing other than Bhagavan. In that sense, the guru should be thought of as Bhagavan, not in any kind of monistic sense. Okay, he should never be considered a mortal, meaning just a regular person, because his mind is absorbed in Bhagavan. But the guru represents all gods. Obviously, that's something that doesn't mean anything to us, but that the world is inhabited by all kinds of celestial beings. Why not, my friends? Why not? If 90% of the universe is dark matter, by the way, it's not dark, it's just invisible, not dark, that's a misnomer. If 90% of the universe is invisible something, why do we stick our nose up at the possibility there's this infinite dimensionalities inhabited by beings that are imperceivable, and we say, oh, that's medieval, that's mythological thinking? Hello, it's not philosophically impossible. A philosophical impossibility is something like a round circle. That's a philosophical impossibility. Or 2 + 2 = 5. That's a philosophical impossibility. But to say that perhaps there's all kinds of dimensions that we, with our gross senses, can't see, just like the world of ants can't see our world, and they're living right underneath our feet, and they can't see us. and understand our civilization and the extent of our powers. Right. So maybe there are multiple dimensions, as every single ancient culture of the world proposed. Let's not be too hasty in sticking our nose up at that and consider it mythological. Maybe it is mythological, but we don't know that. Okay. So now, fourth principle of bhakti, following the path of the saints. Now another Purana, Skanda, that's a Shaiva Purana. There are three primary Shaiva Puranas. And I know Shiva, our good friend Shiva, is not with us tonight. She's honoring Kurt's birthday. Happy birthday, Kurt, if you happen to listen to this later on. The three principal Shaiva Puranas, and one is the Skanda, it's enormous. One is the Shiva Purana, and one's the Linga. Linga obviously is the name of what, Linga, we know what the Shiva Linga is. So notice he's a Vaishnava, Rūpa, but he's quite happy to quote the Shiva Purana. That path by which, as long as it fits into Vaishnava theology, that path by which the saints passed beyond exhaustion. What is exhaustion? How about infinite births in samsara, running about, trying to find happiness and failing, and then trying again and again and again and again, and getting old and then dying, some usually horrific death, and then getting reborn and all the humiliations of being small, and then again and again. How about that for exhaustion? So the path by which the saints pass through exhaustion is the path to be pursued, for it is without sorrow and leads to the highest bliss. So in other words, following the path of the saints, my friends, that's what we're doing. We're following the teachings of Rūpa. We're so proud. We think we want to put our own path together. Oh, I'm not following anybody. I'm going to pick and choose. Well, what do we pick and choose? We pick and choose what our whimsical mind feels like picking and choosing. And then we wonder why we don't make any spiritual progress. Find your path and follow the footsteps of those who have gone before, who are 1,000 times more renounced, more committed, more determined than we are. Let it be a Catholic path, if that's your way. Follow St. Francis then, and go all the way, like St. Francis did. So this is the following the path of the saints. And they're there in every tradition. And now the Brahma Yamala, never heard of it. Exclusion devotion to Hari, with regard to the injunctions of revealed and remembered scriptures, that's the Shruti and the Smriti, the Puranas and the Pancharatra, produces calamity. Wait a minute, you've got to read this with this next one. The devotion referred to above, this devotion to Hari, following all the texts, is erroneously understood to be exclusive devotion. What? Actually, it is not exclusive devotion at all, since it is observed to be contrary to scripture. What is he saying? Exclusive devotion to Hari. Oh, without regard. So I missed the without bit. So if you think I'm a devotee of Bhagavan, exclusive devotee, but without following all the revealed paths, revealed by God, revealed by the sages, revealed by that, this verse is saying that's not exclusive devotion at all, because it's going against the scripture. And what is the scripture? The scripture is God's revelation about how to approach God, and the revelation of the saints. So this basically the verse is saying we have to follow scripture. Otherwise, we can make up a story that we're lovers of God and exclusively devoted to God, and maybe we have some, but if we're just winging it on our own, what's going to happen? We're just making up our klishta minds are just going to make up nonsense about what service to God is and what love of God is. We're relying on our klishta minds. What are you going to come up with? Klishta theology. We know what klishta means, compromise. I'm assuming you know the word from the Yoga Sutra, it's klesha. So if we make up our own path, our klishta mind is making up a path, then we're going to end up with a klishta theology. Might make some progress, might be pious, might get a better birth next time. But all these traditions and any tradition of the world is going to urge us to follow the paths outlined in the sacred texts and revealed by the great beings, my friends. And this is what we're doing with Rūpa. Okay, now number 5, fifth principle of bhakti, inquiry into the true nature of things. That's just regular jnana. So in the Naradiya Pancharatra, some of you read the Bhakti Sutras, that's written by Sage Narad. So all desired aims are quickly accomplished for those whose mind is intent on realizing the true natures of things. And what is the true nature of things? Purusha, Prakriti, Ishvara. That's the ultimate nature of everything, at least in this tradition. Of course, in Advaita, then the true nature of thing is Sarvamidam Kalu Brahman. All of this is Brahman, and there is no form, there is no quality, there is no personality. Advaita Vedanta will have its understanding of the true nature of things, but in the Rupa's tradition, the true nature of things means real world, real souls, and real Bhagavan, and those are eternal realities. Not that one is eternal and the others are conventional. Okay, so either way, whichever way you want to go, that's part of the bhakti. You got to know that you're an Atman. You've got to know there's a Bhagavan. I mean, bhakti means, so we right at the beginning, we established the relationship between the bhakta and the Bhagavan. So you got to know that much at least. Okay, time and again, you've renounced all ordinary pleasures for the sake of Hari. This is we're on number 6. And that was Vairagya, renouncing ordinary pleasures, but how is it different from Patanjali? For the sake of Krishna. Is in the Padma Purana, a Vaishnava Purana. Okay, so the Vaishnava Purana is the Padma, the Vishnu, the Bhagavata, and the Shaiva ones I mentioned, the Linga, the Skanda, and some of them are mixed Puranas. Actually, there's several. I think there's 5 Vaishnava Puranas and 3 Shaiva ones. Time and again, you've renounced all ordinary pleasures for the sake of Hari. Therefore, everlasting good fortune situated in Vishnu's realm awaits you. That's the personalist realm in Brahman, where made of pure consciousness. All the forms there are all made of pure, no matter, no gunas, no sattva, rajas, tamas, no time. Everything is, the forms are beautiful, eternal, spiritual forms. This world is a reflection of that, just like Plato kind of sort of intuited in a certain sort of way with his shadows on the cave. That's the, and Bhagavan is infinite forms, and all the bhaktas get whatever form they want that allows them to serve and love God in the way they wish. Just like we get our forms here based on karma, and karma is based on our desires and what we wished. We act, we wish, we act, and then we get reaction, and then we end up with the forms we get to exist in Prakriti. Well, it's the same up there, except all desires are focused on Bhagavan. Therefore, the forms there reflect the desire, the way we wish to serve Bhagavan. That is real. That is the real use of desire. That's aklishta desire in bhakti. So all men and women who live in Dvaraka, number 7. So the 7th principle of bhakti, living in sacred places, Dvaraka, which is in modern day Gujarat. Now they have all this archaeological survey of India, the Marine Archaeological Survey of India have discovered these huge monumental supporting stones. There was a city there that was inundated. According to legend, Krishna's city of Dwarka was engulfed by the sea, and there's definitely no question that there were massive monumental structures that are in the sea off the coast of Dwarka. Of course, pious Hindus will naturally assert that that's the city of Krishna. But okay. So all men and women who live in Dwarka for a full year, or for 6 months, or for 1 full month, or even half a month, they have become 4-armed residents of Vaikuntha. They go to Vishnu's realm, and like Vishnu, they also attain 4-armed forms. So that's the Skanda Purana, which is interesting because it's a Shaiva Purana. This includes living in the land of Purushottama Jagannath Puri. That's in Orissa. And we're reading the story now in our Rutgers class of Caitanya, who's only lived 42 years. And the last 12 years of his life were in Jagannath Puri, just engaging in ecstatic kirtan and fainting and behaving like an utter madman in the mood of the gopis when Krishna left. So that's Jagannath Puri. And okay. And now we're gonna, so this is number 7 is about living in a holy place, the benefits about it. So this is all number 7. Dwarka is one such holy place. Gujarat, Jagannath Puri, that's in Orissa, East India. Such is the Brahma Purana says, such is the greatness of this land, that everywhere within a distance of 10 yojanas, 80 miles, the gods see all people only as four-armed. In other words, it's saying the people that live in 80 miles around the temple, we look at them and we just say they're, rickshawallahs and farmers and just folks and, regular Indian people, but the celestials see them as four-armed residents of Vaikuntha. So, we should read all of this, my friends, because you're going to learn so much about just Hinduism from following along. So I'm glad you're hanging in there. Right. What about living near sacred rivers such as the Ganga? So for Bhagavad Purana, who, when about to die, would not serve the Ganga river that flows with water sanctified by the dust from the feet of Krishna. Right, Krishna bathed there, but really this is a reference to an incarnation called Trivikrama, whose toe went through the covering of the universe, and then the water from that separates the Brahman dimensions from the Prakritic dimensions. There's a sort of layering of celestial water that divides those two kinds of dimensions. That came bursting through the hole made by the foot of Trivikrama, an incarnation of Vishnu, and came cascading into the universe with such force that Earth was afraid it would shatter her, and the only being that could soften the force was Shiva. So then he takes it on his head. If you look at very carefully at deities of Shiva, you'll see the representation of the Ganga on his head. So right here in the corner of my office, you see that on top of his head? That's the Ganga. Okay? And then you notice how beautiful, how kind is Shiva, that even snakes and scorpions and the ghosts and the hobgoblins, they all take shelter of him. So there's a form of Ishvara for everybody, my friends. Lord Shiva is so gracious. It says in the text, ahimsa, but even the great yogis who follow ahimsa, they're allowed to kill 4 entities with no karma: scorpions, poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders, and something else. But Shiva gives them even those that by their karma, they're born in these, like a snake has to, well, even the Christians talk about, right? Who is it? The snake gets cast out of, right, and has to grovel on his, even the Christians don't have much compliments to make about the snake. But Lord Shiva is so kind that not only does he give them refuge, he wraps them around his neck. This is the great kindness and mercy of Lord Shiva. The most fallen of beings on the hierarchy of living entities that even yogis are allowed to kill without karmic repercussion. He gives them shelter, and then and all the hobgoblins and all and the ghosts and all of these really bad births. That's why you see him surrounded by all of these characters, and if they worship him, they get, why not? They get liberation. There's a form of Ishvara for everything. It's just a wonderful thing about bhakti. You go to Varanasi, the people that burn the bodies, normally they would be the outcasts, not even outcasts, in the high Brahmin, egocentric world of the Varanasi Brahmins. They have the reputation all over India. Those burners of bodies have their own form of Shiva that they worship. Only them. It's their form. It's Shiva in a form for that jati. That's a jati. Patanjali talks about jati ayurboga. Jati means, the 4 varnas, but each varna is divided into so many jatis, sub social groups. and they worship. They have their wonderful relationship, even though society scorns them, avoids them. If and they live in their own area on the outskirts of Varanasi, they have their beloved form of Hara, who can give them everything. Any form of Ishvara can give anyone that worships them exclusively. So that's what they see. The gods see, including okay. So there we have it. So we move on and we go down the page to an illustration. Okay, number 8. Acceptance of only what is necessary in ordinary life. And here he's quoting the Naradiya of Pancharatra. One who understands the true aim should accept only as much as, this is just aparigraha, regular, only as much as is needed. But interesting to see how aparigraha is pitched here. We know how the commentaries of Yoga Sutra speak of it. Let's see how Rūpa speaks of it, this aparigraha. Non-coveting, one of the, what is it? It's a yama or a yama. One who understands the true aim should accept only as much as is needed for one's maintenance, because in excess and in destitution, one slides away from the highest aim. If we take more than we need, we become attached to it. Then we have to maintain it. We have to protect it. We have to be anxious about it. And that's what our minds get occupied in that way. And we slide away from what should be exclusive focus of the mind on God. Quite straightforward, nothing complicated. Right, number 9, honoring the festival days of Hari, quotes the Brahma Vaivarta. All misfortunes are eliminated, virtues become unlimited, and Govinda is remembered for people who fast on Ekadasi. So this is every 11 days, Eka Dasa, 1, 10, 11, Eka Dasa, Ekadasi. So it's the 11th day after the full moon, 11 days after the, what do you call the no moon? Vaishnavas fast from grains and beans. And you're taking it quite seriously. So that's Ekadasi. If you'd like to do it, it's probably very healthy apart from anything else. You can do that. It's a simple thing. Number 10, respect the holy trees, right? We don't need to waste much time here. Maybe it just says, look, it's pious, right? And he gives a list: the pipal, fig tree, tulsi. And notice how Rūpa adds stuff, because he probably, I don't know why, maybe he's thinking, well, hang on, it's a bit odd, this. I don't know where he's getting. Oh, he's getting them from, he's getting this list from his, from Gopala Bhatta. So he adds cows, brahmanas to the list. And it's pious, it destroys the sins. It's not going to give you bhakti, but it destroys the sins of people who worship but bow to them and meditate upon them. And you'll see people in India, villages or anybody, offering their pranams and namaha to cows. And, you touch the cow. Now, of course, they're all in such an awful state, the cows. But when I first went to India, we would just, every time we saw a cow, we would touch it and put our hand to our head like that. We were offering, namaha, and it was quite a common thing to do. Right. 11, keeping away from those people who have turned away from Sri Krishna. And he quotes a text I've never heard of, Caitanya, he's a Vedic sage, Samhita. It is better to be confined to a cage flaming with fire than to be ruined by living with people who have turned away from thoughts of Krishna. Sounds a little bit, a little severe to me. Caitanya may be one of those Vedic, there are some Vedic sages who are pretty right-wing, my friends. There are, there are the Dharma Shastras. There's certain Dharmas. I mean, there's some of them that are really, if a Sudra hears the Vedas, you pour molten metal into his ear. If a Sudra recites the Vedas, you rip out his tongue. You have some really fanatical, right-wing, not very pleasant, not very, there are some characters, as there are in any religion, that write stuff like that. I don't know about Caitanya, but I don't like this, the tonality of this, and I'm going to sort of put him in that kind of a category for now, until I learn more about him. Confined to a cage, flaming with fire, I don't think so, my friends. That's not what bhakti is. That kind of thinking shouldn't be in the mind of a bhakta. So let's just bracket that one, or just acknowledge it. There it is. I don't know why Rūpa decided to quote it, but let's see. What about the Vishnu Rahasya? The embrace of a snake, a tiger, or a water monster, that would be an alligator, is better than association with those who are erroneously worshipping a variety of gods. Again, I don't make these kinds of verses, but there they are. But the point here being, you worship other gods for material things, and therefore you get trapped by that kind of materiality. And that's just going to cause rebirth. So you're better off embracing a snake. Let's move on. Here, much more interesting, and for me anyway, number 12, avoiding the attendance of numerous disciples, my friends. All these big mega gurus, the great big entourage, and you only get 5 minutes once a year. You stand in a line outside their room, and then he comes in and you're all intimidated, and you get your 5 minutes and you scuttle off and come on. That's not what a guru-disciple relationship is supposed to be like. You're supposed to live with the guru, serve the guru, study with the guru. But here, anyway, avoiding the attendance of numerous disciples. Don't go for one of these mega gurus. Refraining from zealous involvement in grand projects. He's putting them together, 13. Great big grand, even in the name of God. Giving up excessive attachment to books. Right, having huge collections of books and reading all this, that, and the other, and as well as artistic performances, lecturing and argumentation. Right, all of those are not conducive to bhakti. So let's see what he quotes. And now he's going to quote the ascetic sage Narada to King Yudhishthira, the elder Pandava, the elder brother of Arjuna. 5 Pandavas, Yudhishthira, one who stands firm is in Yudh, in battle. He should not be attended by numerous disciples. You shouldn't accept any personal service if you're taking that role of a guru, because then you start to. First of all, it's awful how some of these gurus disrespect their disciples. It's awful. Just kind of treat them like slaves. Shouldn't be accepting. Shouldn't accept personal service. If disciples want to do service, you direct them to do some service for Bhagavan in some form or fashion. And there's lots of ways of doing that, whatever, arranging kirtan programs, publishing, translating books, many ways of doing that, depending on, on the guru's bhav. You should not read many books, because then you just jump, it's all buddhi-vritti. Then your mind is jumping all over the place. It's not focusing deeply on your beloved Bhagavan. You should not be employed in lecturing. Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm going to have to hand in my resignation now. You should not be employed in lecturing. And what that means is that you shouldn't, in the Indian context, what it means is that you can't charge for discourses. People should give, they should contribute, they should give whatever they want to give, but you can't charge, you can't set a fee is what it means. In traditional pedagogy, the Shastri, obviously the dharma of the Shastri is to teach Shastra, teach the scriptures. You can't charge a set fee, that's what it means. You accept whatever the students want to give. And he shouldn't become involved in distracting projects. And there's footnote 48. We can look at that at some point. Let's have a look. Where are we? Page 45. Page 45. Yeah. What are the distracting projects? Let me go all the way to the end of the. That is. Sorry, I should have looked this up for you. Nothing very interesting. Okay. 15, avoiding ungenerous behavior, Padma Purana, nothing very specific to bhakti here. When one fails to achieve food or drink, or when one's food or drink is destroyed, one should maintain an undisturbed mind and meditate on Hari alone. And I'm not sure what this has got to do with ungenerous behavior, but if you don't get your food, then just meditate. If you're a Baba sitting, under a tree and you don't get your food that day, you just meditate on Hari. Next one, 16. Not being overwhelmed by such emotions as ordinary sorrow. Padma Purana. We shouldn't be just, tossed up and down by just mundane sorrows. How can Mukunda appear to one, Mukunda Krishna, whose mind is overcome with emotions such as sorrow and anger? If the mind is occupied with sorrow and anger, then how can Krishna manifest in such a mind? 17, showing no disrespect for other gods. So Padma Purana, Hari alone should always be worshipped as the Lord of the gods. However, Brahma, Rudra, and other gods should never be shown disrespect. So for the bhaktas, for the Krishna tradition, then Krishna is the ultimate causal being, but one should never disrespect the other forms of Bhagavan. Right, 18, refraining from coercing or causing distress to other beings, and he quotes the Mahabharata here, which is nice. Hrishikesha, Krishna is quickly pleased with that pure one who acts towards other people like a compassionate father who never torments his son. Right, so this is just a lovely generic religious spiritual principle. Love thy neighbor as thyself, most beautifully expressed by Lord Jesus. Like a compassionate father who never torments his son. Quite beautiful. Or mother with a daughter. Right. 19, avoiding offense to the holy name. In Varaha Purana, avoiding offense in service and chanting the name. The name is Ishvara, remember. Any offenses to the name is an offense to Ishvara. All the offenses in worshipping my image, that are in the image that are in the temple, that have been enumerated by me, O earth, are always to be diligently avoided by a Vaishnava. So he's associating image here, which is the murti in the temple, and he's saying that the name is also a murti. There are different kinds of avatara. So there's murti avatara, there's shastra avatara, script. In other words, there's different avatara means divine presences. They can be Bhagavan himself that manifests. That's certainly, that's what the Krishna story is, and the Rama story is, and the Devi stories. That's direct personal manifestations. But there's other forms of avatara. Avatara, I mean, ones who crosses over from one dimension to another. So one is the name, one is the murti, one is the shastra, the scriptures. So he's making that point here. So the image here would be the name. Padma Purana. Oh, this is interesting. Even one who commits all these offenses, so this must be coming, he's just taking one verse out. It must have been a list of offenses. So he said, even if one commits all those offenses, is freed if he takes refuge with Hari. And Krishna says the same in the Gita. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mamananya bhaksadu eva samanta. However bad, whatever bad behavior you've done, if you surrender to me, then you should be considered a sadhu. But then he hastens to add in the next verse, and you quickly become righteous. You don't remain a rascal. But whatever your background is, could be the worst possible. Sudur achar, Gita says. Dur achar, acharya, right? Behavior, one who behaves. Acharya. Acharya means one's exemplary behavior, but literally achar just means behavior. Now, dur means bad behavior. Sudur means very bad behavior, as low as it gets. Krishna says it doesn't matter. As long as the minute you rightly resolve to surrender to Bhagavan and turn your back on all of that, then you're considered a sadhu. But he goes on to say, but the proof of that is you immediately become righteous. Your behavior becomes righteous. You don't remain like that. So that's something like that is here. So if you commit or whatever the offenses were in the Padma Purana that prior to this verse, or freed of them all, if he takes refuge, right? It's pranidhana, complete and utter shelter, surrender. But that comes with regrets and the determination never determination to follow the path of Dharma. That debased person who commits offenses towards Hari, right? So let's say, there's three things here. You make offenses, but if you surrender to Hari, you're freed. What if you make offenses towards Hari, Well, the debased person who makes defenses towards Hari is saved by at some time taking refuge with the name by means of the name. So even if you offend Hari, you can be absolved of that offense by taking shelter of the name. But one definitely falls below from offenses to the name, the best friend of all. But if you make offenses to the name, then there's no, where do you turn at that point? Where do you turn? So then you fall below. That means you take a bad birth. So therefore, the name should be respected. And even Patanjali says, what does he say? Notice Patanjali, Tajapa, Tadartha Bhavanam. Be aware of what it is. Be aware of the meaning of the name. Patanjali, in his own little minimalistic way, makes a little comment that we could easily connect with this here. 20. Remember, these numbers are out of the 64. Not tolerating any abuse towards Krishna. And he quotes the 10th canto. One who does not leave a place where one hears abuse towards the Lord. So if someone is abusing Bhagavan in a place, and if you don't leave, if you stay there and listen to it, or towards people associated with him, if people are criticizing and just, bad-mouthing bhaktas, falls below. That means you lose your you get a bad birth and loses all virtuous merit. So one shouldn't stay in a place where, I guess, blasphemy or whatever however you want to frame that. 21, wearing the marks of a Vaishnava, the sacred clay, in the Padma Purana, those Vaishnavas who wear a necklace of tulsi, mine fell off the other day. I have no idea where it was. I woke up in the morning, it's probably in my bed somewhere. Those Vaishnavas who wear a necklace of tulsi, right? So Vaishnavas wear tulsi around their neck, Shaivas wear a rudraksha, or lotus seeds around their necks, whose upper arms are marked with the conch and wheel, right? You stamp that with sacred clay, whose foreheads are marked with vertical red sandalwood paste tilak. I don't know why it's red, but it's actually yellow. Mostly yellow, or if you get it from the banks of the Yamuna, it might be gray, but it's vertical. Remember, the vertical lines are the Vaishnavas, the lines going vertical. They are theists. For them, God is a personal being. They quickly purify the world. 22, wearing the letters of Hari's name. Now he's quoting the Skanda again. The messages of Yama, the god of death, right? The moment of death in some traditions, if you've been bad, then the messages from, there is hell, it's just not eternal. You just go to hell to burn up your karma. Once it's burnt, you just, unit for unit, you have 100 units of really bad karma, and it needs a particularly severe birth to experience because you've been particularly severely vicious and violent to others. So there are realms where you can burn that karma up more quickly. And there are these beings that reside there. Yama is the lord of death, a bit like Pluto, except Pluto, that horrific, Roman version of it. Everybody goes there if you're not a god, and you stay there forever. It's quite horrific. It's quite awful. The Roman afterlife. You go to Pluto. You go to the Hades. Awful place. Only the gods, and if you're not a god, you can't make it to the celestial realm unless you're Hercules and you're half-half. That's not very enticing, but it is cognate to the Indian one. It's coming from an Indo-European ancient world, but the Indian one is, anyone can go to the celestial realm if you have good karma, and anyone can go to the infernal realm if you have bad karma. But as soon as the karma's burnt up, that's it. And whatever you suffer in hell is nothing other than the very same suffering you inflicted on others. It's not more, it's not less. It's an eye for an eye, my friends. And likewise with the celestial realm. So Yama, the god of death, cannot touch the one who has the letters of Hari's name written with gopi clay on the forehead. If you have the marks of Vishnu, then the messages of Yama can't take you away even if you've been bad. And I didn't know what you make of all this. Some of it, for me, some of it works more deeply than others. Some of these, some of these I find are a little bit just sort of cultural, 16th century cultural traditions, but some are deep level bhakti ones. But we're going to read them all. One who marks the body with the letters of Krishna's name, with purifies the world and attains Krishna's realm. All right, these are all, and so you see the Babas in Vrindavan, and they'll have, you go to the marketplace in Vrindavan and other places, and they'll have little metal, the mantra, made in little brass, like a seal or a stamp, and you buy that, and then you make your sacred clay and you rub it like this, so it's wet. Then you put that brand in it, and then you stamp yourself. So I had a bunch upstairs, and I gave them away. Right, 23, wearing flower garlands, and then Uddhava says to Krishna, Bhagavatam 11th, we your servants who are enjoying. So this is prasadam. I mean, this is a huge thing in temples today, and we mentioned it last time, that Indians will surge up to the deities and what happens is you come to the temple and you bring your garlands and your fruits, right? And so everybody's doing this. So then the pujari is getting dozens, hundreds of garlands, right? He puts them all on the deity, but maybe only for a moment or two, because you can't have all of these garlands, but every one of them, all the fruit gets put at the feet of the deity, and then he distributes it back to the public. So and that's prasadam. So you can just sort of give the garland and stand there expectantly. Then the pujari will understand, take the garland, put it around the neck of the deity, and immediately return it to you. That's your prasadam. You take it home. That's a big deal. And likewise with fruit. You take it up, or he may put that fruit down, and then he'll give you the fruit that somebody else had just given, and you take that home and you share it with the family and with your friends, and it's a big deal. It says prasad, prasad. Everybody will honor it. So if you go to someone and say prasad, you can't say no. Sometimes they have this really awfully sweet. They have these gulab jamuns are so sweet, and of course in India you have to be a bit careful, especially if you're Western. If you're a Westerner and you're only there for a month, so your system hasn't really adjusted, you have to be careful about eating some of that. The sweet, but you still have to accept it, and then you sort of take it and honor it. Then when no one's looking, you give it to the cow. Yeah, well, that's also nice. Why not give it to the cow? The cow, that way you're still respecting it. But be careful about eating the sweets. You get diarrhea for the rest of your life if you eat the wrong sweets in village India. Okay, back we go. So these are, we your servants are enjoying your leftover food, something like along the lines of what I just said. And I got covered with the flower garlands, the scents, the clothing. So they'll also give you, ointment, on little swabs, actually ear cleaners nowadays. So they'll put ointment on the deity, and then if you put your hand up, they'll smear it on you, and that's prasadam too. Prasadam means the remnants of what the deity has enjoyed. So that's food, that's flowers, that's scents, and ornaments that were previously enjoyed by you. All right, so, and we'll certainly free ourselves from your concealing illusions, from Maya. Our minds will become purified in this way, because your prasadam will purify our minds, and then our minds will be pure, and bhakti will manifest. And again, about the garland, one whose body is touched by a flower garland worn previously by Krishna becomes free from all diseases and misfortunes, O sage Narad. So I don't know if that means Krishna. Of course, if that's Krishna himself and he's incarnating, that certainly sounds, obviously that would be the case, but a deity, I don't know about that. Not going to comment. 24, dancing before Krishna. And you see people dancing in ecstasy in the temples. But you all know this, right? You've seen people dancing kirtans. A thrilled soul. The soul is thrilled with the name of Bhagavan. That's a lovely word, thrilled. You can imagine the ecstasy permeating through the body. A thrilled soul who dances with emotions caused by great devotion, burns up the misfortunes of hundreds of eons. In other words, so much bad karma for many lives gets burned up. And the words of Narad, dancing before the Lord with enthusiastic clapping of the hands, causes all sins situated in the body to fly away like birds. One is purely dancing, purely just clapping the hands, that burns karma. 25, prostrating to the deity, Narada Pancharatra. Performing even one prostration to Krishna is better than 10 Vedic horse sacrifices. This is the old Vedic horse sacrifice, the Ashvatthama, in the ancient texts in the Mahabharata. Consider, major events performed by the warrior caste. But just one prostration to Krishna is better than 10 of those. Because one who performs the horse sacrifice is born again. If you do the horse sacrifice, you get a good birth, but you're born again. You may be born in the celestial realm, but you're not liberated. Whereas the one who prostrates to Krishna is not born again. 26, rising respectfully from a seat, right? Nothing special. A person who rises, having seen Krishna approaching him, destroys all sins. So these are when Krishna was actually incarnating on the planet, in the world. So maybe not everybody realized he was Bhagavan, but if you just respectfully rise, then destroy sin. 27, politely accompanying. So if you accompany Krishna, and again, when he's incarnating, he's on his chariot. If you accompany Krishna, all dog eaters, even if you're a dog eater, pretty lowly on the social hierarchy, they become like Vishnu himself by going alongside, behind, or in front of his chariot, simply accompanying the chariot. Right. 28, visiting holy places. Visiting his places means visiting his temples and pilgrimage sites. Now here, obviously, we're one of the primary activities in Hinduism is visiting the holy places. We're not doing too bad. We're clipping along. Those 2 feet, another Purana, he doesn't say which one, that visit a pilgrimage site of Hari are praiseworthy, since they are capable of crossing over the wasteland of this world. In other words, they cross over samsara. By going on pilgrimage, it's a purifying activity, and those feet that do that then can cross over samsara. Now, visiting a temple, an illustration of that, from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya. A wise person, possessing true devotion, who enters a temple for the purpose of seeing Vishnu, never again enters the prison of a mother's womb, is never reborn by visiting the temple. That would be, if one really goes to see Bhagavan purely. Right, 29, and people circumambulate the temple. You go around it clockwise. A person who repeatedly goes around circumambulating Vishnu does not go around anymore in the cycles of existence. By circulating Vishnu, you no longer circulate through birth and death, since his going around is of him alone. Right, then we have another one in Skanda. We don't need to read that. Right, same thing. Remember, same sort of thing about the effects of that. Number 30, worship. Worship means, okay, this now is a bit more important, something we could all do if you want to do puja, if you want to have a little temple room in your house or a corner in your house. You might wish to do worship. Worship means the offering of services, so flowers, incense, along with sacred syllables, mantras, chanting mantras. When you offer things, you chant the mantras. So there are different deities have set pujas. It's called puja. In a temple, it's called arti. In your home, it's called puja. You do that after one has completed the preliminary acts, such as purification and marking the sacred spots on the body, jñāsa. So before worshiping the deity, you can have a deity at home. If you like, I'd show you my deities, which are upstairs. But before you worship the deities, you take bath, and then you apply sacred clay. It's called jñāsa. So he illustrates this in the 10th canto. Worship of his feet is the primary cause for people to achieve heaven, liberation, good fortune in this world or in the underworld, and all spiritual. Even if you're not seeking bhakti, by worshiping Bhagavan, all these other mundane things, not really bhakti things, but still you can attain them. Bhagavan will still give them to you if that's what you want. Right? So now he quotes another verse. Those people who worship Sri Vishnu here on earth go to the highest realm of Vishnu's eternal joy. That's Vaikuntha. Okay, the realms of Vishnu and the infinite realms. They're called Vaikuntha. And Krishna's realm is called Goloka. Shiva's realm is Shiva Loka. So these forms have their realms, the divine realms made of pure consciousness, my friends. God has forms, beautiful. Otherwise, God cannot be beautiful. If God is a perfect being, he must be beautiful. Perfect being means you're omniscient, fine. Everybody knows that. You're omnipotent, okay, yeah, everybody agrees on that. But you must be omni-beautiful. Otherwise, you're lacking. So what's beauty? But form. And so these forms, the forms, we don't know what to do with the forms. We think they're myths. We think it's Hindu mythology. It's Bhagavan manifesting beautiful forms to please his devotees. Try considering the possibility that Supreme Being is beautiful. Why do you think the descriptions, you read the descriptions in these Puranas, and they go on and on about the beauty, Shiva's beauty, the lotus eyes. Why the lotus eyes? Because the lotus is the most beautiful thing you can come up with in our world. How are you going to describe God's beauty? You have to find something that vaguely is appropriate. So you say lotus. It's the most beautiful thing that an Indian poet can conceive of. Forms are beautiful. You read the descriptions. They repeat again and again and again the beauty of these. Those who've seen them, that's what they say. They're beautiful. They're just simply beautiful. They don't talk about power and all this other. They might talk, but their primary description of their experiences of beauty. All this talk of omniscience and omnipotence, of course, Ishvara has all of that. But if you see God, you're going to be visually, as sages have from the beginning of the recorded literature right up to 20th century gurus, so many claims have there been there of having a darshan of some form of Ishvara. The primary kind of the primary expression of those people just is of beauty. That's what Indian art is all about, trying to depict this beauty. We don't know what to do with it because we come from the Abrahamic traditions where the assumption is if God had a form, it's material, and matter is imperfect, so God can't have a form, because if he had a form, it would be subject to all the imperfections of materiality, like limitation and so forth. But the Hindus, the Indian tradition says, well, what are you talking about? We never said God's forms are material. The forms are spiritual, they're divine. They're Satchidananda. They're not subject to the imperfections of materiality. Consider it, my friends. Think about this. Because bhakti is nothing other than that. Relationship with the form. Right. Number 31 of the 64. Assistance in temples. What does that mean? It means cleaning the utensils used in service. Right. If you go to the temples, the priests do all the puja, but the regular householders, regular folks, they come and they'll do their work in the kitchens. They'll do some service. Right, clean the utensils using the service, and attendants with fly whisk, umbrella, or music, maybe play some musical instrument. This is all service for the deity. So do some service, clean the temple, help cook the food, help serve the guests. There's so many things you can do. So that illustration of that, one who stands in a temple of Hari for a moment, or even half a moment, goes to the highest realm, Vaikuntha. What then to say about those engaged in attendance? If you even go to a temple, you go to Vaikuntha. What to speak about actually doing service? Fourth canto. The delight in serving the Lord's feet, or the feet meaning, it's a sign of humility. You're obviously God, there's no high and low. God's feet are not low, but in our world, the feet is the low part of the anatomy because it touches the street and so forth. So we think of people's feet as, even we do in our Western cultures, as the low part of the body. So you put your highest part of your body, your head, on the feet. So you project, so that kind of cultural, a sense of humility and respect is projected onto God, but obviously God's feet are not impure. But still, delight in serving the Lord's feet increases day after day, just like the Gangas, which flows from Vishnu's toe. And I've told you the story of Trivikram. His toe pierces the coverings of the universe and immediately washes away all the impurities accumulated over all lives from the minds of people tormented by affliction. We're tormented by affliction. We're tormented by our minds, by our bodies. Serve the Lord's feet. There are many practices of worship and assistance, but I have not written about them here out of concern for the size of the book. So Rupa's just having a little aside here. 32, singing. That's kirtan, a brahmana who continually sings songs about the highest reality, named Vasudeva, obtains co-residence with Hari. That's one of the 5 types of liberation, living in the same realm. Remember, Rupa's earlier said, bhaktas are not interested in that unless it allows service. Then they can accept it. I don't like this very much, and I do apologize to Shiva, but she's not here. This is superior to singing about Rudra. Obviously, there's a Vaishnava text, and the Shaiva text would say the same thing. So here we see the sectarian nature of the Puranas, and but the odd thing is, this is the Linga Purana saying this. The Linga Purana is a Shiva Purana. Why would the Linga Purana shouldn't be saying that this about Vasudeva, this is superior to singing about Rudra? I wonder whether, if that's why Rupa doesn't want to come out and say that, nor that, but I wonder whether he's quoting a Shiva Purana, where the Shiva Purana is talking about the supremacy of Vasudeva. That I can only speculate about that. Right, this is Sankirtan, congregational praise. The Krishnas were famous for this, 60s and 70s, chanting in the streets, and that was initiated in the 16th century in Bengal by Caitanya. So Sankirtan is proclaiming aloud the names, playful activities and qualities of the Lord. So you chant, the bhajans and the kirtans publicly. And then he gives an illustration from this text here. Millions of seeds are reduced to ashes, O king, for one who utters the auspicious name Krishna. Obviously, it's being a bit exaggerating in the sense of, of trying to stress the power of the holy name. So, an illustration of praising the playful activities. What does that mean? All right, 7th canto of the Bhagavad. Are we doing okay, everybody? Are you finding this a little dry or boring?
No.
Eleonora saying yes. Little bit?
No. It's always good to hear more.
I mean, we're just gonna, we're halfway there. Hang in there, and you'll understand a lot also just about Hinduism in general if you just follow along, and then we'll get to love of God and bhava, and so all of those lovely jewels are awaiting us. But let's just stick with this. Follow. We're halfway there. I don't want you to get bored or anything, but these are the practices of bhakti, and they're generic. They're generic. They can be applied to any of the forms of Ishvara. The poets have declared that praising the qualities of the excellent Lord, like the Leelas, the stories of Krishna, the glories of Shiva, we praised the quality of Shiva a minute ago, pointing to his kindness and his giving shelter even to snakes and scorpions. So that's praising the qualities of the excellent Lord. Is that indestructible treasure that comes from a man's penance, scriptural knowledge, sacrificial performances, Vedic in other words, all of this. You do all of this Vedic stuff and study, charity, sacrifices, and the result is your mind gets attracted to Ishvara, and then you get to a place where you delight in praising the qualities of the excellent Lord. That gives you great bliss. That's higher than all this other Vedic stuff. What's silent chanting? Number 34. Quiet pronunciation People say, what should japa be in the mind? Should it be allowed? Japa is supposed to be, always has been, something that it's a sound. So it's the pronunciation. So some people, you can do it mentally, but the kind of conventional way of doing japa, right? Patanjali speaks of japa, to japa tadartha bhavanam, is quiet, meaning just you. That's the difference between japa and kirtan. Kirtan that we had up here is loud. He mentions it loud. Remember the loud? Here, this is kirtan. Congregational praise is proclaiming aloud the names. But when the names are just for you, your own personal silent meditation, it's called japa. So it's very quiet because only you need to hear it. Of a sacred syllable, mantra, and that would be the name of your beloved Ishtadeva. That's called silent, that's called japa. That's the standard practice. That's a practice that Patanjali advocates. And that's something we could all do, my friends. If you want to start a spiritual practice, this is where you start. Start with japa. Take some time out first thing in the morning, 20 minutes. If you don't have a practice, everybody can spare 20 minutes. Recite the mantra, fix your mind on the mantra. That's the most common form of meditation since the earliest Upanishads. Why not start? Why not start a spiritual practice? What, are you just going to wait to get old and then what? Hope for the best. Hoping for the best doesn't work in life. You got to work for everything in life. Why do we have this ridiculous idea that hoping that we're going to die and hope for the best, that somehow or other that's going to work out? We get what we work for. If that's the case in life, why do we imagine there's going to be some magical wand at death? What's foolish thinking is that? We get what you work for. So if you want to have if you want to have some kind of a spiritual hope at the moment of death, not necessarily even for liberation, but just so that for a better next birth where you can continue your spiritual path, you got to do some work now. And japa is the best place to start. Right, the mantra, Krishnaya Namaha, this is Padma Purana, accomplishes all goals in life and grants the fruits of heaven and liberation to those devotees engaged in silent chanting, O King. If you want that, of course. That's give me that. You remember there's bhakti that's mixed. And so he's mentioning, the Padma's mentioning these two. You can get to the celestial realm if that's what you want, liberation if that's what you want, like Patanjali. But anyway, that's the mantra, Krishnaya Namaha. Right, 35, praying, Skanda Purana. Whatever request is made to Hari through words is the very thing that opens the bolt on the door to liberation. In other words, talking to God. This is obviously we're very familiar with from our Christian traditions. What a lovely saying. Opens the bolt on the door to liberation. Because we're developing a relationship with Hari. Even if it's a gimme one in the beginning, we're still developing a relationship. The problem with a gimme kind of bhakti is what happens if God doesn't give you? That's either you become an atheist and say, oh, well, there's no God in it. Well, I've prayed so much for this, that, and the other, and never got it. All right, then there can't be a God then. Or you get upset with God. I mean, do we think God is not aware of our situations that we have to ask him? I mean, when we pray for something, what exactly, think it through. Did God make a mistake to put us in that situation that now we have to pray for him to fix it? What are we thinking when we pray for some material thing? God was made a mistake and now we need him to rectify it by giving us that thing, or what? Or God doesn't know we need that thing? What are we actually imagining about God when we pray for stuff? That's not what a real bhakta does. Your karma is your karma, and your relationship with God is over and above that. You're simply, well, okay, you take the hit, you take your karma, and that's your mundane part of you, and your spiritual part, your hope, your goal, and your aspirations is to develop love for God. Asking for some mundane thing, what we want God to be partial, like we get it because we prayed for it, but the guy next door didn't pray for it, doesn't get it. Well, what is it? What are we thinking? So we pray and we get it. So if we didn't pray, wouldn't get it. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would God have put us in that situation in the first place then if he's going to give it to us if we pray for it? I mean, okay. I mean, you could make a case and say, okay, well, by praying for it, at least you're developing a relationship with God. So God will give it to you in order to encourage you to start that relationship. Fine. You could make that case. Gimme, start to bhakti. All right. I could accept that. Right. Where are we? The wise have described many types of praying to Krishna, such as making a request for service. Notice what you're praying to God for service. That's bhakti. Give me service, Bhagavan, not give me my body, mind something. Give me service to you. That's a real bhakti prayer. An acknowledgement of wretchedness is humility, feeling how we're fallen, that we just always become falling victims to our desires and our minds and our nonsense and our selfishness. And an expression of longing. This longing is pure, wonderful. This is the longing of the gopis of Radha for Krishna, viraha. Right, making a request. As the minds of young women dwell delightfully on a young man, and as the minds of young men dwell delightfully on a young woman, so may my mind dwell delightfully on you. He's giving us a practical, down-to-earth example that we all understand. Just as we fantasize about some soulmate or some beautiful, wonderful other that we hope to fall in love with, which is all nonsense, but let our minds, direct that instinct, that impulse, that desire to be loved, that desire to be with some perfect person, which is a nonsense. If we try to apply that it would simply fail and be a failure and be disappointing if we direct that to some material person. Let us direct that to Bhagavan. That need for love, the very, very nature of the soul, according to Bhakti. Right, illustration of, what about acknowledgement of wretchedness? Is that one of the things? And one of the processes? No one is more sinful or guilty than I. I'm too ashamed even to ask for forgiveness. What more can I say, O Purushottama? There's a beautiful statement of humility. After all of this nonsense, I'm such a selfish person. I manipulate everybody for my own interests. I'm too ashamed even to ask for forgiveness. How lovely is that? Right, an illustration of expression for longing. When will you, O Lord, so in other words, to long for God? What is that? What verse is he going to provide to illustrate this principle of longing for God? Here it is. Narada Pancharatra, when will you, O Lord of the universe, that's Narayana, with Sri Lakshmi by your side, Lakshmi Narayana, use your deep voice to command me to wave the fly whisk that I hold in my hand? When can I come and fan you? That's the statement, with a fly whisk. Another one from the same text. O Lotus eyes, meaning God, when will I dance on the bank of the Yamuna, singing your name with tears in my eyes? When will we get to feel the ecstasy of kirtan? So we cry and we weep. We can pray for this is what we can pray for. Reciting hymns of praise. The wise have said that hymns of praise include such works as the Bhagavad Gita and the Stavaraja, never heard of it. So that these are also hymns of praise. So not just Vedic hymns and those kinds of hymns, but even the Bhagavad Gita is, according to the wise, according to this, he's not quoted anybody here. He just says the wise have said. He hasn't told us who the wise are. I've never heard of anything like this, but it's an interesting verse. Skanda. Those whose tongues have been adorned with an abundance of the gems of the hymns of praise to Sri Krishna. So these hymns of praise to Krishna are like gems, are worthy of being honored and worshipped by sages, saints, and gods. those who chant praise to Krishna are worthy of honor. And then another Purana. The one who in front of the deity, go to the temple deity, praise Krishna, the destroyer of Madhu, with eulogies and hymns of praise, is freed from all sins and attains the realm of Vishnu. Okay, so this is just the merits of chanting to the deity. Right, now, this is a very important one. Eating food that's been offered to the deity, Padma Purana. The one who daily eats food before Krishna that has been offered and then mixed with tulsi, and all food that in the Krishna tradition, when you offer food to the deity, you put tulsi leaf on it, and sprinkled with special water from the feet of the Lord, obtains the merit of millions of sacrifices. This is so devotees like to eat prasadam, remnants of food offered to the deity. Then 38, drinking water used to wash the deity's feet. So the deities in the temple, the deities are washed, and then that water then is distributed and you drink that. Those who do not practice charity, do not perform sacrificial oblations, or read the scriptures, or worship the gods, can reach the highest goal by drinking the water from the deity's feet. Okay, so you see what's going on. 64 principles. He's illustrating them all, and some we can relate to better than others. 39, smelling the sweet fragrance of the incense, the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya, smelling the remains of incense that has been offered to the Lord is an antidote for those bitten by the snake-like world, right? The world is like a snake. It bites us all the time with suffering. And the supreme function of the nose, this is the highest thing you can do with your nose, is smell the incense offered to Bhagavan. Now the illustration, Tantra, when the sweet fragrance from Hari's flower garland enters the nostrils, the bondage that is the cage of sins is destroyed. So the common denominator of all of this is, things that it's all connected to Krishna. Prayers to him, anything offered to him that comes back to you is purifying. All of this is all bhakti, and it's all revolves around the personality of God, that God is a person. So whether it's the flowers, the incense, anything that comes in connection with that, with God, instantly purifies. That's the sort of common theme of all of this, whether it's prayers being offered, food being offered, incense, garlands, all of that are purifying activities. So smelling fragrant flowers that have been offered to the infinite Lord is said to purify the sense of smell. Here in the world, Vishnu Dharmotara, touching the image of Vishnu, touching the deity, a pure person who's endowed with faith will be freed from the bondage of sins and will obtain all desires. So this is the way to be purified, right? Patanjali talks, how do you get purified at Patanjali? Kriya Yoga, Klesha Tanukarana. So he has, Tapaha Svadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanas. Notice Ishvara Pranidhana is there. But what does Ishvara Pranidhana look like? Well, this is what it looks like in real life bhakti. This is Ishvara Pranidhana. Patanjali only mentions japa. But all of it is for what? To purify. Even Ashtanga Yoga. What do you do Ashtanga Yoga? Right? Yoganga Anushtanad. Why? Ashuddhi Kshaye. You purify. So we have to purify our minds of all desires, all kleshas, all tamas, and then God can manifest, my friends, in the mind. We can have a vision of God. God will appear in the pure mind that's impermeated with bhakti. This is what we aspire for in some life, somewhere down the road. What does it matter if we've been infinite lives? Well, what does it matter? A few more. Let's keep going. What else are you going to do? What else are we going to do? Tell me. Someone please tell me. What else are we going to do that makes any sense whatsoever? Given that death is imminent. Tell me something else that makes sense. I mean, dharmas, we do all of that. We love our families, of course. How's it all going to help us at the moment of death? Right, moving on. Okay, looking at the divine image, right? That's when mostly you can't touch the divine image. You can if you have your own temple at home, but obviously if you go to a temple, only the priest can touch the deity. but you can look at it. So 41, looking at the divine image, those who see Govinda and Vrindavan, O earth, do not go to the abode of death, but rather go to the goal of the virtuous, just seeing. But here it says Govinda, but divine image was up there. Witnessing the waving of the lamp, right? Lamps are offered, and then they're passed around the congregation. If you've gone to a temple and you do this with the flame, you put your head in the flame. No, not literally. So witnessing the waving of the lamp before the image, right? What does the skanda say? Just looking at the I notice he's quoting the skanda a bit. Must be quite familiar with the skanda. You got to keep in mind, it's not like they could just go online and check. These texts were hard to come by. So even kings probably had, warehouses. They would have had scribes writing them out. But if you were like a village Brahmin or something, you wouldn't have access to all the texts, the sacred texts. It'd be quite something to get. You'd probably have a few treasured manuscripts of your own. So you may not be able to read the 18 Puranas. You may not have access to them. Keep that in mind. Everything's handwritten. So, if you lived in a holy place where there's lots of temples and Brahmins, and probably they would have, the community as a whole would have a good collection, but still hard to come by. Right. Festivals, all people, including even those dog eaters. Remember, lowest on the hierarchy. Become maybe you should have put hippies. Even the hippies of the 60s. What do you think, Swami Premananda? Even the hippies. All people, including even those such as dog eaters, become the companions of the gods, the little gods, the celestials, by witnessing, even out of curiosity, Keshava seated in the temple chariot. Even if you're just curious, you don't know Krishna's God, you just happen to watch with curiosity, then then that's good. All right. What does it say? You get you become a celestial. Who wants that? Right. Meditating on the Lord. 46. Okay, now this is important because it's kind of the goal. What is meditation? Is the skilled, practiced contemplation, not chittavritti nirodha, my friends. You're using the mind. How are you using it? You're contemplating the forms, qualities, activities, and services of the Lord. This is bhakti meditation. Your mind is absorbed in the form of your beloved Ishvara, maybe various forms that he might take, but you're going to have your one beloved form. And even within a tradition, you have your, like for me, it's Bala. I'm not interested so much in Radha Krishna. So even within a tradition, there'll be a form. What to speak of all the forms of Ishvara, even the one form, the baby Krishna and young Krishna, and then Gopi Krishna, even within that one, the one sort of incarnation, there's going to be differences. What to speak of the difference between, Krishna and Shiva, even within Krishna tradition. So what do? You contemplate the forms, the qualities that you read about. Krishna's kindness, his mischievousness is a quality. Whatever it is that attracts you. The activities, the stealing of butter and all of that, and the services of the Lord. Illustration. Contemplation of the 2 feet of the Lord obliterates all dualities. Now, dualities here means things like hot, cold, honor, dishonor, those kinds of dualities. Even sinners attain the highest good by this. Another illustration of meditation. Those who always contemplate the qualities of Hari with devotion are freed from all impurities and enter Hari's abode. This is the goal. This is really, I don't know why it's stuck in the middle here, but this is the ultimate goal. I don't understand why Rūpa has placed, he says, the first 5 are the most important, the last 5. This is I don't know why this is not the most important of the processes of bhakti. I don't know why he's arranged it the way he has. Because meditation on the qualities, the forms, the name, this is the goal of bhakti. But I don't have an answer for that. I will ask my godbrother in Vrindavan, Satyanarayan Das, and see what he says about this. Why is this tucked away almost as if, in the middle of this list? meditating on the charming activities of Hari, which consists of the essence of all sweetness and wonder. So Krishna is known for his sweetness. Shiva is known for his wonderful kindness and his graciousness. They all the god, all of the deities have their special flavor. Kali is her power and so forth. Narayana's majesty. But Krishna is sweet. It's just sweet. It's just, the leelas of Krishna are just very touching to the heart. One becomes free, meditating on that. So this is what we do as bhaktas. We try to fix our minds on these activities and qualities. Another illustration from in the Purana, Padma Purana. Some devotees attain a direct vision of Hari, who is beyond mind and speech, by serving him continually through mental techniques. Mental techniques, until you actually have a vision, you have to then create an image of God with your samskaras, your material samskaras. So you get your blue samskara, you get a peacock feather samskara, and you create a form made of your mundane samskaras. You keep that fixed. And then you think of Krishna stealing butter. Well, you imagine a pot like you've seen in India, maybe one of those pots with a round lid, lips. And then you imagine butter in it, or maybe you've seen a picture, and that's what you do. That it's kind of a mental construct, where everything's a mental construct. Jnana Yoga is a mental construct. You're meditating on the mental construct of the Atman. So, but at some point that mental construct dissolves, and actual Bhagavan manifests in the mind. So where does it say that? Some devotees attained a direct vision of Hari, who is beyond mind and speech, right? By serving him continually through mental techniques. So initially you have to use mental techniques, and then you get the direct vision of Hari. Same with any yoga process. What's servitude? Consists of offering all actions to the Lord and also acting as his servant in all ways. This is servitude. Number 47. All actions to the Lord. Skanda. Even ordinary actions that are dedicated to the Lord are considered spiritual practice. So this is what Krishna teaches in the Gita. Yad karoshi yadashnasi, whatever you do, offer it to me. So even if it's not direct bhakti, it's just whatever it is you do, you're a bus driver, so you offer it to Bhagavan. So even ordinary actions that are dedicated to the Lord, the point is to somehow or other connect everything to God. You got to start somewhere. So you start with whatever you do, whatever you eat, Krishna says in the Gita. They're considered spiritual practice. It's spiritual because it's connected to Bhagavan, my friends. We've got to somehow or other find ways of connecting everything to Bhagavan. Well, we start off by connecting something to Bhagavan. And this is even more true of special actions that are offered to him. If it's true that normal actions, well, what about the special ones that you do, like things that you do just for Bhagavan? You're not doing it because of your livelihood or you need to eat, so you cook a meal and then you first offer it and then you eat. No, if you do something just because, like buy some beautiful flowers and give them to your deity just because, well, that's even more true then, the verse says. Thus, there are two kinds of offerings of actions to Krishna by Vaishnavas that are considered servitude. Ordinary good actions and special actions. Ordinary are just your regular life. You just try to offer everything as you proceed through life. But the special actions that you don't have to do, you're just doing them for God. You don't have to. They're not necessary for your livelihood, such as mantra recitation, meditation, and worship. These are special things only for God. They're not part of your daily livelihood. Eligibility for such actions said to be slight for one whose faith is weak. If the faith is weak, you just do a little. But even then, nonetheless, his offerings of action to Hari is still called servitude by some. So even if we just do a little something, it's better than nothing. And it's still seva. Servitude, by the way, means seva. Service, which means, the beginning of love. Illustration, Narada Purana, one whose activities are performed with body, mind, and speech in seva. I don't like this word servitude. It's the wrong word because servitude is a negative thing for us. It should be seva. Remember, we had this whole discussion. So, love means you want to please the beloved. That means you serve the beloved. The word seva in Sanskrit does not mean servitude. If you want to talk about servitude in the sense of like slavery or someone that's indentured labor or something, use a different word. But the word seva is only used for bhakti. So this is an unfortunate translation. So seva, I'm going to use the term seva. It's said to be liberated in all situations. Right, friendship. Now this is encroaching on the later terrain of bhav. So he's not going to say very much now, but you're going to get a lot more in the chapter on bhav. Friendship is declared to be of two types: trust and assuming the position of a friend. Let's see what he has to say about that. First type, Mahabharata, trust. Oh, Govinda, this is your promise. My devotee will never be destroyed. Kuntaya pratijani hi name bhakta pranashati, Bhagavad Gita. Surrender to me, and my devotee will never be vanquished. So that's trust. Remembering this again and again, I live my life. That's a verse on the Mahabharata. That's trusting God, that God promises my bhakta will never be vanquished. Kuntaya pratijani hi, this is Gita, name bhakta pranashati. Anyway, right. Remembrance is firm and eternal for the best Vaishnava, who even for a fraction of the time it takes to blink, does not stray from the lotus feet of the Lord. This is the Mahabhagavata. This is the highest state of bhakti. How long does it take to blink your eye? Even that second that it takes to blink, that person does not deviate from meditating and serving God. That's 24/7. Not even the blinking, not even for that split second do you forget Bhagavan. So which are vainly sought after by the gods. Gods of the celestials have too many distractions. How are they going to meditate on Vishnu? They're pious, accept Vishnu, they worship Vishnu, but they're not going to be meditating on Vishnu. Life's too good in the celestial realm. And others who have not controlled the self, even for the dominion of the three worlds. Right? All right. Faith is a necessary condition for the eligibility of devotion. There has to be faith. You have to decide what you want to believe in, my friends. Do you want to believe in a God or not? Do you believe in an Atman or not? Do you think this world, that's all there is or not? Do you think the goal of life is just to enjoy while you can? This is all faith. There's not a single person in the world that can function without faith in some goal of life, whatever it is. So don't think that only religious people have faith. Everybody has faith. Just decide what you want to have faith in. So it's a necessary condition for bhakti. However, faith is but an aspect of this trust. He's talking about trust a couple of verses ago. So that trust includes faith. And he gives an illustration. Motivated by feelings of friendship, some devotees serve him and sleep in the temple, viewing and caring for him like an ordinary man. There are pujaris and priests that they're just like, you remember, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, you sleep with your deities, you sleep there, everything. And these are the, temple priests, for example. Or you could do that in your own home. Have your deity and your whole life revolves around your deity at home. Now he's saying, since friendship is also an aspect of Raga Nuga, remember I said he's going to talk about it more, that's going to come up, and is therefore not linked exclusively to the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, it's understood that the love that its friendship can be attained by both paths. So friendship can be attained by Vaidhi, rules and regulations, or it can come spontaneously, and that's going to be the next topic after we finish Vaidhi Bhakti. My friends, we're on number 49 out of 64. I don't know why I feel that you're all not feeling bored, but that's just in my mind, and I shouldn't assume that you are.
No, Edwin G, people are just saying that we missed a page 57 with 43 to 45.
Oh, is that what they're saying? Oh,
yeah.
Remember the famous page 57? That one.
57. Oh, was it? Oh, it was missing in the original?
Yes, it was added.
Oh, we'll have to. I thought we added that.
Edwin, I printed, what you gave us, and it printed that page.
Yeah, because I added
that extra page because it looks a little different, but it was in the document. It was in the document you sent us.
But you'll have to. But well, yeah, you know what? I'm taking this from my desktop, which is the old one. Do you all have that page?
Yes, it is in the one that we can download. Yeah.
Yeah, you all have it. So then I'm gonna have to read my book. Then it's page what, 55? 57.
57.
Okay. I'm sorry if I keep yawning. I have to take this medicines. I get these awful spasms at night. I had this operation and it failed, so I still have to take this. It makes me sleepy. So if I'm yawning, please don't think I'm in any way bored or anything like that. I just it's a medicine. It's called Ropinirole, and if I don't take it, it's absolutely it's hell. I ride like I'm writhing with these spasms. It's quite not very pleasant at all. Some nasty karma. 57. So what are we talking about here? Festivals. One who out of devotion, so we're going back, my friends, and then one who out of devotion witnesses with faith either Hari being worshipped or the worship itself becomes delighted and obtains the fruit of yoga. So just the worship, very auspicious. Okay, this is really important. I'm so glad we did this. Listening, item 43, that's what we're doing. Listening means hearing such things as the names, acts, and qualities of the Lord. It all starts from listening. Where does it come from? Where does anything come from other than through the ear? Any knowledge we have of anything has to come into the mind from outside. It comes from listening. So Garuda Purana illustrates it. A person becomes free after hearing the Vaishnava mantra Krishna, which is the sole remedy for a life destroyed by the bite of this snake-like world. So the second time we have this metaphor of this snake-like world, this world that treacherously bites us. So that's the Garuda Purana. So that's another Vaishnava Purana out of the 18. Garuda, Vishnu, Padma. Fourth canto of Bhagavatam. There in the assembly of devotees, great roaring rivers of nectar, how about that, flow in all directions in the form of stories about the acts of Krishna, the slayer of madhus. So if we're not attracted to the stories of Krishna, these traditions would say it's because our minds are full of rajas and tamas. Mind has to be sattvic to relish these stories. So, but the stories themselves purify. So even if we don't have that much attraction, if we still nonetheless trust the sages, trust the process, read the stories, absorbs our minds in them, then the minds become purified, and then the stories start to manifest their sweetness, their beauty, and ultimately bestow love. We fall in love with the subject with the protagonist of the stories, our beloved Bhagavan. 12th canto of the Bhagavatam. One desirous of obtaining pure devotion to Krishna, right? If you want a pure devotion to Krishna, what do? Should listen continuously every day to the elucidation of the qualities of the highest reality, Krishna, which destroys all inauspiciousness and is being sung perpetually by the saints. This is I don't know why this is tucked in the middle either. This is the most important practice of bhakti, because remembrance only comes from, what are you going to remember? You're supposed to remember God all the time. What are you going to remember? Well, you remember the stories. So then what comes first? Listen to the stories. You have to listen to them before you can remember them. I don't know why these are I don't know why this one is tucked here, same as I don't understand why the other, whatever comment I made previously, meditation and memory. It's all about memory, smarana. I don't know why they're stuck in the middle. They should be in the first 5 or the last 5, which Rupa is saying are the most important, or the first 10 he said was the most important. Including the fig tree. What the hell has that got to do? What the hell is that doing in the list of the 10 most important? So I don't have an answer for you yet, my friends, but I will pursue this and ask those that I hold as my authorities in Svadhyaya. My godbrother in Vrindavan, Satyanarayan Das. An illustration 44, perceiving the grace of the Lord. One who perceives even experiences that are the consequences of one's own actions as your grace. In other words, even what you do, you see, one sees everything as grace. Even if you did something that you thought was successful, you see it all as grace, and honors you with heart, speech, and body. If you do all that, in other words, just another way of saying, always thinking of God and understanding God is ultimately underpins everything, achieves the gift of the liberation. And we all know that bhaktas don't want that, but still there it is. Remembering the Lord, this is the whole goal. Why is it number 45? Any kind of mental connection with the Lord is called remembrance. When the mind is connected to God, thinking of God, then you're remembering God. Just the way he's framing it is, you're connecting the mind with God. That's remembrance. Illustration, Vishnu Prana. I take refuge in the eternal, unborn Hari, by remembering whom a person becomes the vessel of all beauty and happiness. We remember God, our whole being transforms, because it's like electricity. You touch electricity, you become electrified. You keep Vishnu in the mind, your whole being transformed into, you become a beautiful being. And the Padma. I honor the Lord of consciousness, whose name immediately destroys the accumulation of sins. For those people who remember it in life and in death, especially in death, you want to remember the name of Bhagavan at that very moment. So that's the page we missed. Where were we before that? Where had we gotten up to?
185.
Oh, 185. Oh, on the screen, I still see 1.
Oh, there we are. We've made some. So I think one more. Yeah, that's okay.
I think we're at 192.
Yeah. So we will. We'll definitely finish. So we'll have one extra class, and we'll finish this next Friday, and then we'll have Bhav, and then we'll have Prema. So we just want to added one extra session. I hope that's okay with everybody. All right, so 163.
No, 193.
Yeah, 192.
Oh, why are we back there then? Okay, 192. Here.
Because you were looking for the page.
Oh, okay. Motivated by feelings of friendship. Some devotees serve him and sleep in the temples, viewing and caring for him like an ordinary man. I'll show you my temple if you like to see my temple.
Yes, please. You had that on your website for a while, a tour of your temple.
Oh, that's true. Then you can see it there.
Yeah.
193. Since friendship, we just read that. Okay, now. Process 49, fully entrusting oneself to the Lord. So now it's going to quote the 11th skanda. When a mortal surrenders all actions and fully entrusts himself to me, he becomes part of my design. He then truly enters into immortality and becomes fit for my own state of being. We surrender to God, then we're part of God's, project, which ultimately is, I suppose, to save all souls, to have all souls return to his divine abode. Of course, there's infinite souls, so that it's never that the universe gets depleted. The learned have determined that there are two different meanings of the word self. The word Atman actually can sometimes refer to the body, sometimes to the mind, and sometimes to the deep level Atman. Even in the Gita, sometimes it refers to the mind. So some say it refers to the indestructible soul, whereas others say that it refers to the body, which is identified with a sense of mindness. So that's ahankara and mamata. So why is this here? Oh, okay. Whether I be the body of some human being. So in other words, either way, the bhakta of whether you think of yourself as an Atman type of being, or even if you think of yourself as the body, you still offer it to God and dedicate it to God. I think that seems to be the point. Whether I be the body of some human being or in some godly form in heaven, owing to positive virtues, in other words, a good karma, I made it to a celestial realm. I now dedicate myself to your lotus feet. So whatever we think we are, whoever we think we are, whatever we imagine our true selves to be, offer it to Bhagavan. Illustration, Bhakti Viveka. I love this verse. Jiva Gosvāmī quotes it. Just as one no longer has to worry about the care of an animal that has been sold, so one who has offered the body to Hari need no longer worry about the care of himself. If you have an animal and you give it to somebody else, it's not your problem anymore. That other person now has to take care of it and feed it. You did, it was yours, your responsibility, but once you've given it or sold it, now it's the other person's responsibility. So if you think you're the body and that's you, then that's your problem. But once you've given the body to Hari, Hari takes care of everything. You don't need to no longer worry about the care of himself. Bhagavan, I'm yours. You want me to eat? Then you'll provide food. Isn't that beautiful? Since friendship for the Lord and fully entrusting oneself to the Lord are very rare, this pranidhana, because they're so difficult. We have so many desires. So we might do a little seva, a little puja, a little this and that, but to really, really go the whole way, they are obtained by special heroic devotees who become worthy of them through spiritual practices, really giving everything completely and utterly, complete full trust. Very rare, my friends. Number 50, offering things dear to oneself. Like, what do you offer to Krishna? Well, you know, there's certain things Krishna likes. How do you know that? Because the scriptures tell you. But otherwise, you offer to God what you like. So if you like something, then you offer. So that's a principle. It's a beautiful principle. If you like it, then that means you think it's cool and it's good and it's great. So then you offer that. So offering things dear to oneself. That's number 50. And in the 11th book of the Bhagavatam, one should offer to me, says Krishna to Uddhava, whatever is dearest in the world, and whatever is most dear to oneself, then one produces infinite results. So certain things we offer to Krishna because Krishna likes them, like tulsi. We put tulsi leaves on the food, and we know Krishna likes, butter and milk things. But other than that, whatever we like, that's what we offer. 51, making all efforts for his benefit, Krishna's benefit. Quotes the ancient Pancharatra texts. O great sage, one should perform all actions, whether worldly or religious, as services for Hari. Whatever you do, worldly or religious, offer everything. This is bhakti. Just, in other words, by hook or by crook, just keep the mind fixed on Bhagavan. Whatever you do, find some story, some way to offer it. Find some way of reworking that thing as an offering to God, because the point is to keep God in the mind. This is bhakti. You see how flexible it all is, how so many different processes, and really what's it all? Just like really what's Patanjali all? Nirodha, everything. That everything, grand finale, what? Nirodha. What's this? All these other things, ultimately what? Keep God fixed in mind. Smaranam, memory, which is why I'm so surprised that it's tucked away at number 46. Keeping God in mind, that's memory. When you keep something in mind, you remember it. Surrendering completely. Hari Bhakti Vilas, one who experiences great joy, saying, Lord, I am yours, with the voice. Thinks of this with the mind, right, says it with the voice, thinks in the mind, Lord, I'm yours, and dwells in a place of the Lord with the body, right? But I don't know what that means, in a temple or a holy place, or just his own home, makes his own home a temple. You don't have to go running off to India. Just make your own home a temple by just offering everything to Bhagavan. Okay, this is your temple now, Bhagavan. He is one who is completely surrendered. So Narasimha Purana, I deliver from all miseries the one who takes refuge in me, saying, I surrender to you and take refuge in you, O Janardana, God of all gods. You see, what does Patanjali say? Ishvara Pranidhana. You got like 2 words. This is what it all means, Ishvara Pranidhana. Patanjali is he's a minimalist. 2 words, Ishvara Pranidhana. He doesn't say anything more than that. But this is what all of this is Ishvara Pranidhana. It's understood that way by some the commentators too. Maybe not quite in the 16th century, the specifics of this tradition, but this is generally the world of bhakti. All of this, pilgrimages, offering food, prasada, garlands, thinking of God, all of this is the world of bhakti. 53. Serving those things associated with Krishna, such as the sacred tulsi plant. So this is now something very specifically Krishna and not Shaiva or Shakta, the tulsi plant. She's a great devotee of Krishna, takes the form of tulsi, and this is something that's very, very Krishna specific. Whenever we offer food to Krishna, we put a tulsi leaf on it, and we wear tulsi beads around our neck. I do obeisance to tulsi, says the Skanda Purana. Again, the Shiva Purana has got all of this, the old Vaishnava stuff. I'm going to have to look at this. I'm going to have to check this. It's enormous. You can't just have a quick, this is Skanda, you can't just have a quick flick through it. I think there's like 12 volumes in my shelf out there. I don't know how many, but it's by far the biggest Purana. So Tulsi, I'm actually running out of prana, my friends. So we got to Tulsi. And that wasn't so bad. We didn't truncate anything, and we're almost, I don't know why I'm talking like this. We should be relishing this. Why am I talking as if it's some kind of a chore? This is all in my mind. Hopefully it's not in your mind. I just don't want it for you to be boring. But that's just my attachment my attachments to my own imagined story. But hopefully now we have a clearer sense of what bhakti is, and we'll keep going, and this is what we do with our Friday evenings. What else are we going to do? Lakshmi Prabhu, Lakshmi Narasimha. Oh no, Lakshmi, he's not with us. We're not going to have kirtan. All right. Probably my fault for not.
I haven't seen him.
Friends, questions or comments?
I think Cecilia is here.
Cecilia? No, she's not. Lakshmi was going to sing tonight.
I think it's a different Cecilia.
Yeah, Diane.
It would be Alan. I'm sorry.
Namaste. Hi.
Namaste.
I just want to say thank you. We're here because we want to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes.
And it's a joy to listen and to share together. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy you said that. Yeah, these are our guides. This is our way out of, not just our way out of samsara, but this is how we approach God. We follow. But thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Comments, questions, or anything at all?
Edwin.
Yansane. How do you pronounce your name? Sorry, Eleonora, did you say something?
Yeah, but go.
How do you pronounce your name?
Well, my name's Ian.
Oh,
but I have a lot of energy, so people call me Ian Sane because it's funny.
Oh, that is funny. Ian Sane. Okay.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, my question kind of goes back to you say that where are we here? Around what numbers were they? They're like right in the middle, and you said that they're the most important ones.
Yeah.
Where do you get the vibe that is the most important? Like, where does that come from for you?
I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over the bhakti tradition. I mean, the goal of bhakti is to think of God And all these are just ways of helping and facilitating that. So then why is memory stuck in as 64? I mean, the goal is smaranam. Like, for example, this is 64 processes of bhakti, but the standard list is 9. Now this is really for those who are really kind of serious and really, more dedicated practitioners. They're going to be talking about, it's like asana, right? So people do a dozen asana, but if you're really, really into it, you do hundreds of asanas. So this 64 is an advanced text. It's an advanced bhakti text for those who are completely committed. It's not for someone that's exploring bhakti. What we're doing is slightly, I won't say artificial, but it's certainly unusual for us to be reading this as a first time introduction to bhakti. This is kind of like level 3, asana. So, but normally the list is 9, and the Vishnu Purana has 9. So Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu Smaranam are the first 3 that you hear, you recite, but then you remember. So the remembrance is the goal, but to remember, you have to remember something. So that thing has to enter into the mind. So therefore you hear it, and then you recite it, but then the goal is memory. So other standard, generic, not just Krishna specific, but just general bhakti, the goal is to remember God. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Just to think, I mean, if you think of God all the time, if that's what bhakti is, it's just like Patanjali, the goal is you don't think at all, any of the time. You totally nirodha, right? So you're not thinking at all. Well, the opposite of that is bhakti. You're thinking all the time, but you're thinking only of God. So that's memory. As you think of something, you're remembering it. So that's just so where am I getting it from? From the list of 9 processes of bhakti, for example, that would be a good right there. It's smaranam is the goal of that, and other places. But I do need to I do need to ask somebody that I look up to in terms of learning as to what his opinion is. Why is this tucked away in 64? Why isn't it even in the first 10 and the last 5? The first 10 and the most important, the last 5. I'm puzzled. So I need to explore that, and I'll share it with you. I'll share whatever answer I get.
And then I noticed similarities, like you said, like if there's the 9 main ones you found, is almost sort of like the 10 commandments to a point. It's like a breakdown of history, trying to sum it up into something where, like you said, this one's a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
And my guess would be maybe just that it's a product of the time they grew up in or they were living in. And
yeah,
why would some be higher than other ones?
Sure.
Because I think just giving it all over to Krishna or Vishnu would ultimately be number 1. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Bless. Thank you. Namaste.
Yeah, definitely. So the goal is just that. Think of God all the time and give everything to God, because God owns it anyway. And whose is it in the first place,
Agreed.
Yeah.
Bless.
Thank you, Ian Sane. And I'm just going to call you Ian. It's more respect from my point of view.
Please do.
Yeah. Is that Teresa?
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to say something in the line of this same question, because it is a guess, but for me, there are 2 things that stand out. One is that in all the texts, at all the times, the most important things are not at the beginning, but in the middle, exactly in the middle, which is kind of what happens here. But then also in the 48, that is the friendship, there's a specific mention saying that friendship doesn't have to be learned necessarily, that it can be part of the raga, right? So what I see here is the Vaidhi Bhakti. So it is starting from the beginning, explaining if you don't know anything, how do you start? And it's surrendering to the Guru. It's not given for granted that you can just associate or sing or chant or remember without starting from the beginning. And it's just a guess, because I have no expertise, but it came so naturally making sense to me that I thought that I would share it. And of course, hearing your opinion about that, if that could be why this is in the middle instead.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah. I mean, there are principles, standard principles of Vedic hermeneutics, that opening statements and concluding statements carry the most weight. That is a formal, official Vedanta Mimamsa principle. And even Rūpa says, the first 10 are the most important, and then he's going to say at the end, the last 5 are the most important. But I think your point that, tucking it in the middle where, by the time you get there, you've got the guru, you've got certain things in place so that then you're better able to appreciate it. I think that's a great way of thinking about it. So I think that's insightful. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions, my friends? Okay.
Edwin, I was wondering if they use dasya. That was the word for servitude?
Yeah.
Or seva?
Seva means service, and everybody's doing seva. But dasya is a particular modality of seva where you see Krishna as your master. Whereas Sakya is a different modality of seva where you see Krishna as your friend. And Vatsalya is a different modality of seva where you see God as your child. And the gopis everyone is engaging in seva, but that seva takes different flavors. And dasya is where you see God as master. We'll be looking at that when we get to the next chapter. He mentions it here as Vedi, but he even makes a comment that it's also Raganuga, but it can, you can also be Vedi. Like for me, for example, my bhav is I think of Krishna as a friend in the sense of a young, cowherd boy. But for me, it's not Raganuga because I'm still in a place of Vaidhi. So that can also be Vaidhi. But then it's when you get more advanced, then it becomes Raganu, becomes spontaneous. And of course, there's shades of gray. It's not like it's not like there's some massive, great dividing wall. Vaidhi you can have glimpses of Raganuga. You can have moments and even periods of Raganuga. And, so it's not that there's just suddenly, so from one moment it sort of morphs from Vaidhi to Raganuga. It's there's shade, there's shades of gray. It's not an abrupt demarcation. And even in the stages of Vaidhi, you can, Bhagavan can bless you with a little glimpse, little bhav, and then take it away, and then take it away, so that so that you have a little taste. It's real. It's there, but you still got work to do. You still got to get rid of all of those kleshas and the desires. So you can get Bhagavan can, especially in the beginning. That's something that many of the bhaktas will say. In the beginning, Bhagavan's very kind. He gives a little taste. He gives a little bhav. He gives a little, and then once you kind of get hooked a little bit, then he sort of pulls away because that's what St. John the Divine called the dark night of the soul. Pulls away so that not, but you've got work to do because free will. God's not going to do all the work. You have to really, really purify that mind of everything that's not connected to God. Any self-centered mental bodily desire. So there can be moments of real bhav and so forth. The famous dark night of the soul. When I read that, it was so meaningful to me because sometimes you can think, gosh, you think you're going backwards. You think, God, you look back when you started and you were ecstatic and happy and renounced, and it was just so blissful, given owning nothing. And then you think, and then you think, now here I am with all my still a nonsense, right? Still with all my nonsense mind. You think, well, I've gone backwards in 45 years. Well, it may just be the case that, Bhagavan gives us, especially in the beginning, a little flavor, a little taste, and then expects us to do the work. No one's going to do the work for us.
Edwin G, I have a question.
Yeah.
In this respect, so can't one interchange the relationship? Like when I have a friend, I can talk to her as a confidant for advice. So in each situation, I can look at Lord as my friend. And if I find that I'm not getting get mad, like you would chide your child. So we can't just box our relationship to God into one pigeonhole, should we?
Well, I mean, whatever comes naturally, Shanti, it should be natural. Mostly once you get to the higher stages, your mind becomes completely and utterly, from what we read about, at least from what the descriptions that these our authorities say, you become completely and utterly absorbed in a particular bhav. You're not changing from one bhav to another, that you're simply completely and utterly in love with Bhagavan in that bhav. But there's nothing, as long as God is the center, there's nothing wrong with what you just said. Yeah, you can change, you can go backwards and forwards, if that comes naturally, and provided Bhagavan is the focus. What's wrong with that? The whole point is to have Bhagavan as the focus. But if you want to consider what the acharyas say, they're going to say you get to a certain point where your bhav becomes 100% completely and utterly consuming, and you enter just completely utterly in the vatsalya or sakya or madhurya, and there is no, at that point, I mean, the gopis are not changing. The gopis are not thinking of Krishna as mother or friend. They think of it as beloved 100% all the way. And likewise, Yashoda is not thinking of Krishna as a friend or certainly not as a lover. And likewise, so those are the role models, the Vraj Leela role models. We'll get to that when we read the section later on in the Ragatmikas. They are 100% whatever that bhav is. That is all consuming. But right now, and if you get angry with Bhagavan, well, that means you have a real relationship. It means it's real. And it may mean there's a lack of surrender. It may be because we get angry, but it's still Bhagavan. So hang on to it. And eventually the anger and all of that will dissipate of its own. The main thing is to cling in whatever mode, even we get angry because Bhagavan's not satisfying our desires. Mm-hmm. There's no other reason for anger other than frustrated desires. So doesn't matter. It's real. It's genuine. It means we have a real relationship. Eventually, just by dint of hanging on to that in our minds, Bhagavan, then the desires evaporate. And when the desires evaporate, the anger evaporates, because anger is nothing other than frustrated desire.
Thank you.
Any other questions, my friends? Because if not, I'm sorry, Lakshmi is not here. I don't know what happened. I will bid you good night.
Thank you, Edwin. Hope you feel better.
Eleonora, are we going to try and see if we can get that class?
Yes.
Okay. So if everybody else logs off, I'm going to stay on with Eleonora because I lost a 3-hour class yesterday, a Rutgers class, which was kind of disastrous. Not even the Rutgers techies, but could help. So if you all log off, that would be great. Thanks so much and have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare.
Thank you.
So Eleonora, so you recorded it on your canvas, is that it?